Hey everyone, I'm Brian Parks. In this video, I'm going to take a WPF app that's written in .NET Framework, and I'm going to upgrade it to the new .NET 5. So the title down here is actually wrong. I'm not really upgrading it to .NET Core. I'm upgrading it to .NET 5. And why that's important is if you haven't been following what's been going on with .NET recently, .NET Framework has been around, obviously, since the very late 90s. I think the first version came out in 1999. It might have been 2000. But it's basically about 20 years old. And then over the past several years, development on .NET Framework, the core platform, has kind of slowed down in favor of .NET Core. And .NET Core has gone through .NET Core 1, .NET Core 2, .NET Core 3, and now the latest LTS release, and up until I think 2 weeks ago, the latest release, GA release, was .NET 3.1. Now, as of, again, a couple weeks ago, there's a new version of .NET, and it's just called .NET. And the whole idea behind that is, yes, it's the next stage in evolution of .NET Core, but it's also the next stage in evolution of .NET Framework. So even in .NET Core 3 and 3.1, you could, one of the new things there was you could build Windows forms and WPF apps using at least very similar APIs to what existed in the .NET Framework, just rebuilt on top of the .NET Core runtime. So now all of that has kind of merged together. .NET 5 is the latest version of both .NET Framework and .NET Core, and they dropped the Framework and Core names, so now it's just .NET. So .NET 5 is the current version, and I have a .NET Framework. I think it's on 4.5. We'll see in just a minute when I switch to the demo. It's a .NET Framework app. It's a WPF app. And we'll actually see there are two WPF apps. I'm only going to do one because it's a little bit simpler. The other one has a bunch more complexity involved that I don't want to go through on video. Otherwise, this video would be hours long. And they share a common library. So there'll be some additional complexity in there as well. So let's switch over to Visual Studio, and I'll show you what I'm talking about. All right, so on the left-hand side here, I have my app that we're going to be converting from .NET Framework to .NET 5. This is a piece of software for one of my startups. The company is called Shutterpilot, and this application is called Capture. It's a photo booth software platform. And it comes with a print layout editor. So if you have a printer connected to the photo booth, you can create custom print layouts. So put pictures on different spots on the final printout. And it's a WPF app. It's pretty small, pretty simple, no crazy dependencies or anything like that. So I'm thinking this should go pretty smoothly. But because I'm only converting one of the two apps, so Picture Booth Capture Picture Booth was an old company I bought this software from. This is the actual photo booth software, and Shutterpilot Layout Editor is the app that we're going to be converting. But they both depend on this Shutterpilot.printing library. So we'll have to do something unique with that. And because I'm not going to do this blind, there is a little bit of complexity in some of the conversions that we're going to do. I actually gave myself a little bit of a cheat sheet. I just created a brand new project. It's a WPF app. This is in .NET 5. And then I created a class library. And you'll notice this class library, I'm actually targeting .NET Standard. So even in previous versions of .NET Framework and .NET Core, and let me see if I can zoom this in a little bit for you. There we go, .NET Standard. Previous versions of .NET, both .NET Core and .NET Framework, there was kind of this common shared runtime area called .NET Standard, which the later versions of .NET Framework were compatible with, and I believe .NET Core has always been compatible with. And this was kind of a way for library developers to create one code base that could then be shared by both .NET Framework and .NET Core. So with that in mind, that's what I think I'm going to do. Again, we'll see on video. I haven't done this. I'm doing this live for you guys. We'll see how it goes. So one other comment that I want to make before I actually get into writing some code and converting this over is that a lot of the tutorials that you'll see online talk about creating a brand new WPF, .NET 5, or back in the .NET Core days, creating a brand new .NET Core project and then copying all your source files over, and that always felt kind of messy to me. I'm much more a fan of a rebuild in place sort of thing. So my goal here, and again, we'll see how it works out, is to open up these project files, replace the contents, see if they work, make tweaks as necessary. So what I'm going to do over here is I'm going to unload the project so that I can see the project file. And you'll notice that right off the bat, there's a lot of differences in the project file format. So this is the library, and this is my sample class library 1 over here. The biggest difference is this guy right here, the SDK at the top level. And then obviously there's a lot less in the way of property groups. There's no import, item groups. One of the nice things about .NET Core and now .NET 5 is that all of your files don't have to be explicitly listed in the project file, which is awesome, fantastic. It means that you can have really short project files like this. The nice thing about this is that it is there's something crazy going on here. It looks like the only really crazy thing that I might have to fight with is this Newtonsoft JSON package reference. So that's something we'll have to keep an eye out for. But basically what I'm going to do is I'm just going to delete everything there and copy this guy and paste it over here. Let me expand this a little bit too. All right, and now let's reload the project and see what breaks. So far so good. Everything looks okay. Dependencies, SDK, it found it. Okay, cool. Now I know there's a Newtonsoft JSON requirement here, so let's get that installed. It's going to be a NuGet package. So install package Newtonsoft JSON. Yeah, let's use 9.0.1. Yeah, let's go with that one. I know that's an older version, but it is the version that the other projects are using. So at some point in time, I'll go through and upgrade them. But for right now, let's keep the version consistent. And that looks good. Now, just to be sure, let's right-click on this and build just that project. And it looks like build failed. Ah, yes. This is something that I had forgotten about. Now, there is a way to allow .NET Core projects to behave nicely with. We're going to have this issue in both this class library and the main application. There is an assembly info.cs file there, and it has some stuff in there that's going to conflict with the same attributes that the .NET runtime, or the .NET, it happens at compile time, that the .NET, I want to say .NET framework, that's not right, that .NET automatically generates for you as part of the build process. And there is a way to disable that. So let's go figure out what that is. So .NET, and I am going to search .NET Core because I know I can find it that way. I don't know if the internet has updated everything for .NET 5 yet. Disable auto generation of assembly info. There we go. Having trouble typing today. That's what I wanted. Yeah, okay. Right here. Generate assembly info false. Alright, so let's go back here and generate assembly info false. Let's save. And now, if I build just that project, everything should be fine. Those errors should go away, and I get build succeeded. I do get a warning because of the Newtonsoft issue. There's another project in here that's referencing a different version of Newtonsoft. Again, something I'll deal with later. Okay, so now the printing library is updated to .NET 5. That's it. That's all I had to do. That's right. That's pretty quick and easy and painless. Okay, so now let's. I'm just doing Control-Shift-B to build the entire thing, and let's see what broke. Okay, so unfortunately, something that I feared, Net Standard 2 cannot be referenced by a project that targets Net Framework 4.5. So this project targets .NET Framework 4.5. So while I'm here, at least to see if I can get this error to go away, let me just target a newer version of .NET Framework. I'll just bump it up to the newest. Yes, close and reopen. That's fine. I think 4.5 didn't play nicely with .NET Standard yet. I think it's too old. .NET Standard is too new for that. But 4.7.2 should be fine. Let's see if that does it. All right, we've got something else that's targeting Net Framework 4.5 as well, and that might be the other one that we're trying to upgrade. Yes, shutterpilot.layout editor. Yep. Okay, so one error, that's fine. Okay, so now let's go over to the layout editor. We're done with printing. Printing is good. It does what it needs to. So now let's just as an aside, you'll notice that .NET 5 doesn't exist here. .NET 5 is installed on this machine, and I can prove it by going over to this WPF app, and you can see the target framework is Net 5.0-Windows. I'll get to the -Windows in a bit and point out what that means. But importantly, you can't just go .NET Framework 4.5 or even .NET Framework 4.7.2 and just select .NET 5 here and have it magically work. You can for a .NET Core project. So if you have a .NET Core 3.1 project and you just select .NET, or go to this dropdown, you can select .NET 5 and everything is fine. So we do need to do the unload, edit, reload dance here. So unload project. And likewise, you can see there's a bunch of stuff here. Castle.core, I'll have to keep an eye out for that. That's something I'm using here. Yeah, Windows-based presentation core, that'll all be provided by WPF, so that's fine. And then we've got some XAML, we've got some C#. We've got our assembly info, so again, we'll have to watch out for that. everything else should be fine. We've got a project reference on the printing library. Yeah, we should be in good shape. Okay, delete, copy this, paste over here. Now, a couple things to note here. Remember, in the class library project, let me just pin both of those. In the class library project, all we had was a target framework. And here we had Net Standard 2.0. Over here, we have three things, but let's start with target framework. Target framework, we do still have, it's going to be Net 5.0, but because we're using WPF, which is Windows only, we do need to specify the Windows version of .NET 5. So our target framework is Net 5.0-Windows. There are actually a couple other target frameworks that you can use that get even more specific, like into specific versions of Windows. There's one for APIs that are specific to Windows 10, that sort of thing. But basically, in order to be able to use WPF, Net 5.0 is not sufficient. I need Net 5.0-Windows. This use WPF true indicates that it should include the WPF library, so I don't have to do any magical references there. And then output type WinExe is important because that means that it won't show the little console window, the ugly black console window, which is what we want for a WPF app, right? We don't want to have the console window and then our UI. We just want the UI. Yeah. Other than that, there is one note here. You don't need to have the .Windows desktop anymore. This was created as a .NET 3.0 app, and I used the dropdown and made it a .NET 5.0 app. I'll probably actually get a warning that says, hey, you don't need to use .Windows desktop anymore. You can just use Microsoft.NET.SDK. So I can go back in and fix that later. So now, let's save that and reload. And again, we'll need castle.core, project reference to Shutterpilot printing, and I think there was something else, but oh yeah, the same thing we did in Shutterpilot printing to disable the generate assembly info. So let's go ahead and grab that right now. Another nice thing about .NET Core is that I don't have to unload the project in order to edit the CS prod file. So I can just go in here, paste, save, and boom, it has taken that into consideration. So let's close that. And now somewhere in here, probably in here, is where I'm using castle.dynamic proxy. Okay, so let's there we go. That's what we need. Okay. One of these will give me the option to install castle.core. There we go. Find and install latest version. That'll work. Okay, castle.core. We need castle.core. That works. Yep, castle.dynamic proxy lights up. Everything looks good. And then we need that project reference. Project reference to Shutterpilot.printing. Say OK. Now we've got a package reference on castle.core, project reference to Shutterpilot.printing. Let's just save that. Now let's try, start with build. Build succeeded. All right, now let's set that as startup project. And now let's really see the moment of truth. Let's actually run it. So I'm actually going to make this big. I think I'm done with my cheat sheet now. So let's go ahead, see if this works. All right, and that is it. I know it doesn't look like much, but that's because I haven't actually created anything. if we go through the app a little bit and add some things in, everything seems to work. And this is running as a .NET 5 app. So that's pretty awesome. So that was, I don't know, less than 20 minutes, maybe even only 15 minutes to go from a .NET Framework 4.5 app to a .NET 5 WPF app. And now I get all the advantages of .NET 5, you know, performance advantages. I can build this on Linux, I've heard. I don't want to try that on video because that'll probably fail spectacularly, and I'll have to figure something else out. But even though it's a WPF app, I think I might be able to build this on Linux. I do have a Windows build machine, but if I could switch everything over to Linux, that would be awesome because everything else I do, I build on Linux. So I hope you found this helpful. I'm kind of blown away by how easy that was and how short of a time that was. I think most of the time was spent with me talking about some of the things I was doing. So if I actually did that on a real app, that might only take, I don't know, 10 minutes, you know, if I did that again. So I'm really impressed with that. Again, I did this live. I did not do any of this beforehand, so that was just me. That was, you know, I just based on my experience using .NET, I just went through that, and yeah, I think that went pretty well. If you liked what you saw, go ahead and give this video a like, hit that thumbs up button, subscribe to the channel. I do things like this on a regular basis, and sometimes I talk about you know, other things related to being a software engineer, you know, as a profession, being a career software engineer. Talk about .NET, talk about PHP, so subscribe for more of that. And you can check out my past videos. I've done a bunch of stuff on C#. Again, I've done a bunch of stuff on PHP, a bunch of stuff on useful tips and tricks to know being a career software engineer. So yeah, that's pretty cool. Share this with your friends and colleagues, and especially if they have some trepidation about upgrading from .NET Framework to .NET 5. .NET 5, absolutely the way of the future. Microsoft is obviously fully invested in it. .NET Core, .NET Framework have both converged into .NET 5, and .NET 5 came out this year. .NET 6 will come out next year, and will also include some Xamarin and some mobile stuff being brought into the one.NET fold, as they're calling it. So yeah, check that out, and definitely see how you can upgrade your .NET Framework apps into .NET 5. I'll leave some videos linked in the description from the .NET conference, or I forget exactly what it was called, from a couple of weeks ago where they announced .NET 5. There's some good material there. Scott Hanselman actually live upgraded his personal website, which granted was a .NET Core app, but he went from .NET Core 3.1, ASP.NET Core 3.1 to ASP.NET Core 5 live as part of a live stream. It wasn't pre-recorded or anything like that. It was literally live. So that's a pretty cool video. I'll leave that link down below. And as always, thank you for watching. I hope to see you in the next one, and have a great week.